We're back with Roxanne Bartel. We had a little connection issue, but this is part 2.
We're resilient.
We are resilient, exactly. So where were we?
Yeah, we were talking about me hearing Kurt Browning during the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
He quoted another skater, and I can't remember who, but the quote was that practice makes permanent.
Practice makes permanent.
Not
I love this.
Perfect. So I that stood out for me because that's a resilient practice.
Right.
Is remembering that when we practice something, we make it permanent. So, for example, I meditate every day, and I haven't always been as...
I love that you meditate. I do too,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And I haven't always been as true to my meditation practice. Sometimes it's up and down, and that's life, right? And but I started in my 20s because of a number of reasons. I'm an A-type personality, and so for me to survive the corporate world, I needed to have some different techniques in my life. And I know that when I use it, that it is available to me. Like, for example, I do all kinds of different meditation. One of them is a mantra.
Okay.
Like, sometimes it's just great to notice the breath in and out, and there's self-compassion lessons in that, which we can talk about. However, I use a mantra as well. When I am going to a very difficult meeting, like let's say there's a conflict that I either need to help dissipate or that I've been part of generating, I go into it having used the mantra, I will speak calmly and effectively. And I now, since I've used that for so many years,
wow,
I just need to remind myself of it and say it to myself out loud a few times before I go into the meeting, and I can stay in a very calm state.
Because when you're reactive,
yes,
you're not that effective.
Yes, and because
I will speak calmly
and effectively.
and effectively, because calm will bring you effectiveness. Yes.
And if you do it as a daily practice and you use that mantra regularly, what happens is that when you need it, it's available because you've built a pathway in your brain that reminds you can be calm and effective.
Right.
You don't need to be triggered, because our brain is easily triggered into all kinds of things, right? And so if you've got yourself in a good place, you can...
And that's the cultivating the personal power. You'll be less triggered if you are cultivating calmness, personal power, finding out who you really are. All of these things, would you not agree, are what create that resilient grit in your leadership, in your own life, and in organizations. And to be an effective leader, let me ask you what you think. Do you think to be an effective leader, that the only way you can be an effective leader is if you're leading your own life in effective ways? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I'm always afraid of or concerned about the word only. However.
However. Most often.
Yeah. I needed to just say that because that sticks for me, because I never like to say that there's one way. However,
like walking the talk.
It makes sense to, yes. Yeah. It makes sense to me that if we do our own work, then leaders need to do their own work. We all need to do our own work to be able to engage in a healthy and resilient way. And so it is the responsibility.
I don't
of
think
leaders.
that you can be a great leader if your life is a mess.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to figure out your own personal power, your own routines, your own practice, your own. You got to be in that place.
Yeah.
If you're going to be leading, I think.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, whenever I hear anyone on leave, whenever anyone comes on leave in my office, they're talking to me about their leader, of the person that's leading them, their supervisor, their manager, their VP, or whatever. And it's like, Lord, these people need some therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's also so the people coming in because there's two sides.
And I'm not even talking about the client needing therapy. Yeah. I'm talking about their boss.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
the lack of compassion, the lack,
And I do think, again, we were talking about the leadership that we all have in our own lives.
Right.
So if we project it onto our boss, then we're not taking responsibility. And by the way, that's the only place where we can change anything.
No, excellent point. You're right. And that is an absolute point. Initially, I'm very compassionate with the person. But then we need to transition into, so how are you contributing to the mess? Because I really do believe that we're at any given moment, this is my opinion, that we're either contributing to the cleanup or to the mess of a situation. And so how are you contributing to the mess, which is where's your responsibility?
Yes, and just like leaders need to watch the stories they're telling themselves and others, so do each of us. And
Right.
so I think
Absolutely.
about, see,
Yes.
this is another Duckworth piece. She interviewed a number of leaders. And one of the people, I heard her speak some years ago, and she talked about a conversation she had with Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO and chair of JP Morgan Chase,
Okay.
largest bank in the U.S.
Yeah.
And he said that leadership is all about storytelling. It's all about the persistent or the relentless, I think was the word he used, relentless storytelling. And
Wow.
it got me thinking, because leaders do tell themselves, they are always telling themselves stories. They're interpreting what people who work for them do through the stories that they've told themselves.
Right.
We're not always conscious of them. So do the people who come into your office.
Absolutely.
They
Everybody.
They're interpreting what the leader does through the stories.
At any given moment, we're telling ourselves a story.
At every given moment.
And I ask people to listen to their inner running commentary.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
what's your inner running commentary? What story are you telling
Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
about yourself,
yeah.
about others, about the world?
Yes, and then have strategies to shift them. Because
Right.
if we just focus on the stories we're telling, we're embedding those in our brain.
Enforcing them, yes.
Yes, I remember way
What's a
back
good-
in my 20s.
Yeah.
I had this experience. I was asked in my early 20s to be on the board for Habitat for Humanity, which was Milo Shantz asked me to co-chair, in fact, with him. And he's no longer living, but he was an amazing leader. Anyway, and so I also had responsibility for the fundraising. So it got me out working on our fundraising strategy. This is in the 80s when Habitat for Humanity was fairly new in Canada. And I went to see a leader of a bank to ask for money for
Yeah.
the charity. And eventually they gave money. But here's the big gift he gave me. He, because he was a leader and he liked
Yeah.
to tell stories.
Right.
So he got talking to me about what had sustained him. He not only wanted to impress a young businesswoman, he also, I'm sure, wanted to support me. And so he told me the story, and then he showed me the evidence of how he managed to stay purpose-driven and values-driven in his stories. He had on the front part of his desk, and he showed it to me, a victory log. He called it a victory log, where he kept, not score, but a list of the things that he was most proud of that had kept him focused on what mattered most.
So celebrate your wins and keep track of your wins.
And remember them as the stories. So when you're dealing with, what he would say to me is, when I need to go in and deal with something, because I was expressing to him that it was hard for me to go in and talk to people like him. And I asked him for tips, and this was one of the things that he talked to me about. If you want to do the difficult things in your life, you need to remember when you've done them before.
Okay.
And not focus on the things that haven't gone so well. Focus on the victories.
Focus on the victories. And so that's a pathway out of negative storytelling, is focusing in on your victories. So let me ask you, how can the viewers find you? And what is something that you want the viewers to know about your next project that they can tap into? Yeah.
So you can find me on my website.
What's your website?
Impactbank.ca.
Say it slowly.
Impactbank.ca.
Impactbank.ca.
My currency.
I'll have it in the comments.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
My currency is impact now. So that's
impact.
Yeah, that's why I'm banking on impact.
You're banking on impact. I love it. Love it. Love it.
And also you can listen to my podcast, which
she's got a great podcast.
There's a link on the website, but you can also find it on
all the places.
iTunes,
and Stitcher. And
I haven't put it on Stitcher yet, but I'm going to.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I've got about 100.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's called Impact Banks, the Kick-Ass Coach.
Impact Banks, the Kick-Ass Coach.
Yeah,
I think that's great because you are a kick-ass coach.
Yeah, well, and I've been working on my resilience and doing it. So for almost 3 years now, every week an episode. So
awesome, good job.
Yeah,
and you really make a tremendous impact. I think on
Yeah.
not only I enjoy our conversations, but tremendous impact I can tell from what we speak about on the companies that you work with and with the individuals that you work with as well. So I'm so honored and thrilled that you came to speak with me.
Victoria.
And is there a nugget that you want to leave us with in terms of what makes for the path toward resiliency and grit in the leadership journey of self and others? would you say? I know I put you on the spot.
There's so
what's a nugget you want to leave us all with?
So one of the things, and this was part of the second question that I encouraged you and invited you to ask yourself about how you explain things. And so the nugget that I'm going to leave you with is that your explanatory style will determine whether you're able to move towards learning or towards self-judgment. And if you want to move towards learning, you want to maybe even add the word yet. When you hear yourself, because our inner voice that you were mentioning, our inner voice tends to tell us what we've done wrong. We default to the negative. So if you can just add up, I haven't figured this out yet.
As opposed to, I can't figure this out
or,
yet.
Oh, what an idiot was I. Well, so far. Just like the moment that you hear yourself saying those things, shift it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I like what I say to people, so we're very simpatico on this, very similar. I say, okay, let's reframe that and say, up until now, up until now, I haven't been able to X, Y, or Z or Y.
Yes.
But, and so that's terrific. So I'm encouraging everyone to check out impactbank.ca and Kick-Ass Coach, which you can find on iTunes, which is Roxanne's podcast. As usual, you can find me at visualizationworks.com because visualization does work. That's my website. And you can get my books there, Find Your Self Culture and Connecting, Rewire Your Relationship Culture. If you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you're not, my YouTube channel is Ask Victoria. And please do subscribe because that's an awesome way. And I will proliferate these videos, because we have a part 1 and 2 here, of Roxanne and myself having a conversation about resilient and healthy leadership in your own life and in positions of power as well. I'll proliferate the videos widely on all kinds of platforms, and so do check them out and share. Sharing is caring, so share. So have a brilliant day, be kind to yourself, and we'll speak to you very, very soon. Take care. Bye for now.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.